Usually, when you talk about a really high-stakes football match, right, especially at, like, the absolute pinnacle of European competition, like a Champions League semifinal,
Right.
there's this expectation of precision. You kind of expect a grandmaster chess match.
Exactly.
You know, you analyze the board, you make a calculated move, and then your opponent just, well, responds with equal caution.
It's very clinical.
Right. It's a binary, clean process.
Yeah.
Managers basically treat the pitch like an architectural blueprint.
Well, yeah, because at that stage of the tournament, the governing philosophy is just risk management.
Right.
You prioritize maintaining your shape, dictating the tempo, and above all, waiting for the opponent to blink first.
Yeah, no one wants to make a mistake.
Exactly. First legs of semifinals are notoriously cagey for that exact reason.
It's all about control.
Yeah.
But then, you tune into the clash between Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich on April 28th, 2026.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And suddenly, that pristine architectural blueprint isn't just, like, tossed aside. It is incinerated.
Completely.
The tactical landscape we witnessed there, I mean, it wasn't a chess match. It was a torrential downpour of goals and mistakes, brilliant moments, and just sheer panic.
Yeah.
A 5-4 victory for Paris Saint-Germain that people are already calling one of the greatest games ever played.
I mean, 9 goals in 90 minutes of a semifinal.
Crazy.
When you say the scoreline out loud, it almost sounds like a typographical error.
Right.
It completely challenges our fundamental understanding of how elite football is, supposed to operate.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're digging into this spectacular reality-bending match today. And we aren't just looking at the official BBC Sport match reports or, the live commentary feeds. We are cross-referencing all of those with post-match studio analysis from guys who have actually won this tournament. Exactly. Wayne Rooney, Clarence Seedorf, Alan Shearer. And we're contrasting their veteran perspectives with the raw, unfiltered, and just intensely emotional reactions from the global fan community on Reddit.
Which is such a brilliant cross-section of sources.
Yeah, it really is.
Because, the tactical data tells you how the structure collapsed, right?
Right.
And the former players, they try to assign blame for why it collapsed. But those fan reactions, they captured the emotional whiplash of the night in a way a spreadsheet just never could.
Never. So imagine you're settling in on a Tuesday evening. You've got your snacks. You're expecting a tense, gritty, maybe 1-0 affair.
Yeah, the classic semifinal.
Right, where the center backs just pass it sideways for 20 minutes at a time. Instead, the whistle blows and you are immediately strapped into a roller coaster. Let's start with just the sheer chronology of this, because the script was thrown out the window almost instantly.
Yeah, from the first whistle.
Right. Bayern Munich takes the lead in the 17th minute. Harry Kane steps up to the penalty spot, and we really have to pause and look at the gravity of that moment.
We do, because that penalty wasn't just an icebreaker for the match.
Nope.
That was Harry Kane's 54th goal of the season across all competitions.
Which is just absurd.
It is. It was his 12th in the Champions League this campaign alone. And according to the BBC stats we reviewed, that is the most goals scored by an English player in a single European Cup or Champions League campaign, in history.
Wow. And the pressure on his shoulders is immense, yet he just slots it away so calmly.
Yeah.
Now, in a traditional European tie, an away goal like that is, the ultimate trigger for a tactical shift.
Right, usually.
The away team goes up 1-0 in Paris. And what do they normally do? They drop the defensive line 10 yards deeper. They condense the space between the midfield and the defense.
They build a fortress.
Exactly. They dare the home team to break them down.
You really expect Vincent Kompany, Bayern's manager and, a legendary defender in his own right.
Oh, absolutely.
You expect him to order his men to absorb the pressure and just protect that crucial advantage.
But that simply doesn't happen. PSG doesn't, patiently try to pick the lock. They kick the door off its hinges.
Yeah, they really did.
Khvicha Kvaratskhelia levels the match at the 24-minute mark with a magnificent solo effort. Then, João Neves finds space in the box and nods the host in front just 9 minutes later.
Just relentless.
So suddenly it's 2-1 PSG. The momentum has swung entirely. But Bayern doesn't retreat either, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Michael Olise, who, by the way, we really need to talk about later because his 8.49 match rating was the highest of anyone on the pitch.
Incredible performance.
He goes on this stunning solo run and buries it. 2-2.
If the referee had blown the whistle for halftime right there at 2-2, Pundits would have spent the entire 15-minute break marveling at a wildly entertaining half of football.
Oh, for sure. 4 goals in a semifinal half is a massive return.
It's huge, but the compounding drama, it just refused to pause.
Right in the 5th minute of first-half stoppage time, chaos strikes again. There's a highly contested VAR review. Alphonso Davies is pinged for a handball in the box. Ousmane Dembélé steps up, sends the keeper the wrong way, and it's 3-2 to Paris Saint-Germain as they walk down the tunnel.
Wild.
You were watching this, and your heart rate is just through the roof. Then they come out for the second half, and PSG just goes on an absolute rampage.
Yeah, the 56th minute. Achraf Hakimi delivers a piercing, dangerous ball into the box, and Kvaratskhelia is there to convert.
Right.
2 minutes later. I mean, before Bayern can even reorganize their shape from the kickoff, Dembélé strikes at the near post.
5-2. 58 minutes played, and a team has put 5 goals past the mighty Bayern Munich.
It looks like a humiliation.
It feels like the tie is entirely over. But, true to the bizarre nature of the evening, Bayern Munich claws their way back from the dead.
Yeah, they do.
Dayot Upamecano scores in the 65th minute. Then Luis Diaz finishes off a brilliant defense-splitting pass from Kane in the 68th minute.
It's just crazy.
It is 5-4 with over 20 minutes left on the clock, and every single person watching is just waiting for the 10th goal to drop.
And it officially became the highest-scoring semifinal match in UEFA Champions League history. 9 goals.
Unbelievable.
It completely bypassed the conventional wisdom of how these fixtures are supposed to operate.
So I have to ask you, looking at the tactical data we have,
Yeah.
why? Usually these matches are entirely about survival. You don't take risks. You don't leave yourself exposed. How did this turn into a shootout?
Well, the answer lies in a combination of philosophical stubbornness and the unique geometry of the tactics deployed by both managers.
Okay.
Both Luis Enrique for PSG and Vincent Kompany for Bayern Munich decided to play with aggressively high defensive lines.
So break that geometry down for me. When we say a high line, what are we actually looking at on the pitch?
Right. So imagine the football pitch split into thirds.
Okay.
In a conservative setup, your defenders might sit at the edge of their own penalty box, keeping the play in front of them. But in a high line, your center backs are pushing all the way up to the halfway line while your team is attacking.
Wow, that high.
Yeah. The idea is to compress the space the opponent has to play in, forcing turnovers high up the pitch.
Right, you suffocate them in their own half.
Exactly. But the glaring weakness of a high line is the, 50 yards of empty green grass behind your defenders.
Right.
If the opponent's midfield can break your press and play a single accurate pass into that empty space, it immediately turns into a foot race between your defender and their forward.
And when those forwards are like Dembélé, Kvaratskhelia, Elise, and Diaz, I mean, that is a foot race you are going to lose.
Mathematically, yes.
Yeah.
If a winger is running at top speed, say 34 kilometers per hour, and the defender has to turn their hips and accelerate from a standstill, the pass only has to be marginally accurate to bypass the entire defensive structure.
Wow.
Both managers committed bodies forward in numbers you rarely see at this stage. They didn't play not to lose. They both actively played to outscore the opponent. It was an exercise in extreme, almost reckless risk.
You can really see the psychological toll it takes on a manager, too. Like, look at Luis Enrique's post-match interview with Amazon Prime.
Oh, that was fascinating.
Right. This is a manager who has won the treble with Barcelona. He has managed the Spanish national team. He has been in the highest pressure cookers in world football for over 15 years. And he said, I think I achieved staying calm for the first 2 or 3 goals, but after the 4th and 5th, it was a mistake because I knew they could score again.
Yeah.
He candidly admitted he lost his composure.
It's a remarkable admission, honestly. Managers at that elite level are basically trained to project unwavering control.
Always.
So for him to admit that the game state was so volatile that he internally panicked, even while leading 5-2, it speaks volumes about the quality on the pitch.
Yeah.
He knew Bayern's attacking machinery was perfectly capable of scoring 3 goals in 10 minutes.
Right.
And actually, the momentum chart provided by the BBC illustrates this beautifully.
Oh, I was looking at that chart. It doesn't look like a football match analysis. It looks like a seismograph during an earthquake.
It's a jagged heartbeat.
Yeah.
PSG completely dominates possession and territory from the 30th to the 40th minute. Then Bayern swings it back violently just before the half. Then PSG dominates the first 10 minutes of the second half. And from the 60th minute onward, it's just Bayern throwing the kitchen sink at the Parisian goal. There was zero sustained control from either side.
And the fans watching at home were feeling that exact same lack of control.
Oh, definitely.
I spent hours reading through the Reddit post-match threads on the soccer and Champions League boards, and the reactions are pure distilled disbelief.
Yeah, I bet.
There was one user, Monk Freedom, who commented that they couldn't go to the washroom during the game because I was scared of missing another goal.
That's hilarious.
And another user immediately replied saying they went to the kitchen right as PSG scored their fourth, heard the roar from the living room, and were just furious with themselves.
I mean, it was a match that punished you for looking away.
Truly.
The transitional play was so rapid that a clearance from the penalty box could turn into a goal at the other end within, like, 8 seconds.
Exactly. And the jokes capturing the surreal nature of the match were incredible. User Inevitable Gold 893 commented, 9 goals. I've seen fever dreams more realistic than this scoreline.
That's perfect.
Right. And they added this great joke about how the goalkeepers, Neuer and Donnarumma, both took one look at the attackers, said, "Not my problem tonight," and mentally checked out.
Which is a highly amusing observation, although it really highlights the sheer hysteria of the fan base because Gianluigi Donnarumma wasn't actually playing in that match.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. Matvei Safnov was in goal for PSG.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
But the underlying sentiment is completely valid. The fans felt like the goalkeepers were just unfortunate bystanders trapped in front of a firing squad.
I want to pitch a theory to you based on watching this back.
Okay.
It honestly felt less like a competitive European tie and more like an NBA All-Star game.
Oh, interesting.
You know the dynamic. Both teams make a tacit agreement in the locker room to completely abandon defensive effort, step aside, and just shoot three-pointers from half court to entertain the crowd.
Right.
So, as someone who analyzes the micro-tactics of these games, was this a case of two teams making a subconscious pact to just put on a show? Or did their genuine, meticulously planned defensive structures just spectacularly implode?
Well, it's an evocative analogy, but comparing it to an all-star game suggests a lack of effort or, a casual dismissal of defensive duties.
Fair.
And if you look closely at the footage and the tracking data, that isn't what happened at all.
Okay.
It is actually much more terrifying from a coaching perspective. The players were trying to defend.
They were.
Yes. They were sprinting, they were attempting tackles, they were trying to execute their tactical instructions. But those defensive structures were fundamentally shattered by the unplayable generational quality of the attacking talent on the pitch.
Okay, dig into that for me. How does a professional defensive structure drilled for hundreds of hours just shatter if the players are still trying?
Well, in an exhibition match, no one is really closing down the shooter, right?
Right.
In this semifinal, defenders were trying to close down the space, but the speed of thought, the precision of the one-touch passing, and the lethal finishing, they simply operated at a frequency the defenders couldn't match.
Oh, I see.
Vincent Kompany sets up a highly structured, aggressive press, but when you play a high line against someone like Ousmane Dembélé, who is essentially a track star with elite dribbling skills, structure relies on your midfield cutting off the supply line.
Right.
The moment Harry Kane or Jamal Musiala drops deep, pulls a defender out of position and threads a pass, the structure is gone. It breaks under the immense pressure of opposing talent.
Which leads us perfectly into the great debate that erupted in the studios after the final whistle. Because the pundits were heavily divided on whether we were witnessing attacking majesty or defensive incompetence.
Right.
To understand this, we need to clearly define the roles these star performers were playing, because they were manipulating the game in highly unusual ways. Let's start with PSG's wingers.
Ousmane Dembélé was a revelation in this match.
He really was.
Yes, he scores 2 crucial goals, but his underlying metrics show a performance that goes far beyond typical attacking output. The Reddit community was very quick to point this out, actually. A user named Zoc93 noted that Dembélé and Kane are producing goal-scoring numbers reminiscent of Kylian Mbappe's traditional output, but they are offering significantly more off the ball.
Wow.
Specifically, they noted Dembélé was pressing like a dog.
The BBC statistics validate that fan observation entirely. Dembélé now has the joint most knockout stage goal involvements for PSG in the Champions League. 10 goals and 7 assists. Yeah. He is matching historical superstar numbers, but he's adding this relentless, lung-busting defensive work rate. He was constantly harrying Bayern's fullbacks, forcing them to rush their clearances. Yeah. And on the other side, you have Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. He also scores twice, but his positional heat map Must look bizarre because he was nominally starting on the left wing, yet he constantly shifted centrally.
That inward shift was the primary tactical lever PSG used to break Bayern's shape.
Right.
And it's exactly what Clarence Seedorf keyed in on during his post-match analysis. Seedorf was just mesmerized by Kvaratskhelia intelligence.
Really?
Yeah, he argued that Kvaratskhelia is currently the best player in the world because of his ability to read the game state.
Wow. Best in the world.
Yes. When PSG was struggling to bypass Bayern's midfield, Kvaratskhelia wouldn't just stay wide and wait for the ball.
Right.
He would abandon the wing, drop into the center of the pitch alongside João Neves and Vitinha, and suddenly PSG had a numerical superiority in midfield.
He became the extra man.
Precisely. And Seedorf made a fascinating comparison. He turned to Wayne Rooney in the studio and said Kvaratskelia's work rate, his aggression, and his ability to carry the team by dropping deep in difficult moments reminded him of a prime Wayne Rooney. That ability to be a playmaker, a workhorse, and a lethal finisher simultaneously.
I mean, that is incredibly high praise coming from someone of Seedorf's pedigree.
Absolutely.
And Bayern had their own multifaceted weapons. Michael Olise didn't just get that 8.49 match rating for his goal. He was constantly isolating the PSG fullbacks and twisting them inside out.
He was a nightmare for them.
And Harry Kane proved he's much more than a traditional number 9. He scores the penalty, but his assist for Luis Diaz's goal, dropping deep, receiving the ball with his back to goal, swiveling, and playing a perfectly weighted pass through the lines, it was a masterclass in playmaking.
Kane is the metronome of Bayern's attack.
Definitely.
But despite this overwhelming display of offensive brilliance from both sides, the former players sitting in the analysis studio were brutally harsh on the defending.
Brutal is the right word. Wayne Rooney did not mince his words on BBC One.
No, he didn't.
He said, "I love Harry Kane, but there's no way he can be praising his defenders. The defending from both teams was really bad."
Clarence Seedorf went even further, directly challenging Vincent Kompany's post-match comments.
Right.
Kompany had defended his backline, suggesting that at this elite level, conceding goals is often about fine margins, and that standard defensive principles don't always hold up against world-class attackers making split-second decisions.
Which sounds reasonable.
But Seedorf aggressively dismissed this. He stated, defending does not mean sitting low. That is not about defending. I don't believe a word Kompany is saying you have to have organization.
So who is actually right here? The manager saying the attackers were unstoppable, or the pundit saying the defenders were disorganized?
Well,
Because if we look at the underlying data, specifically the expected goals, or XG, a really interesting narrative emerges.
Yes, it does.
For those who might just look at the final scoreline, XG essentially calculates the mathematical probability of a shot resulting in a goal based on historical data from that exact coordinate on the pitch, factoring in the angle and the proximity of defenders.
right, it's a measure of chance quality. And the XG story of this match is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Bayern Munich actually dominated possession, holding 57% of the ball away from home. Furthermore, their expected goals was 2.51.
Okay.
Paris Saint-Germain's XG was only 1.91.
Wait, so mathematically speaking, based on the quality of chances created, Bayern should have scored roughly 2.5 goals, and PSG should have scored slightly less than 2.
Exactly.
Yet PSG scored 5.
That is the crux of the defensive debate. PSG scored 5 goals from an XG of less than 2. This tells you that the match was a masterclass in ruthless clinical finishing rather than a barrage of endless high-quality chances.
Right.
PSG only took 12 shots in the entire game. They put 5 on target, and every single shot on target went into the back of the net.
That is absurd efficiency.
Bayern had 10 shots, 8 on target, and scored 4. The finishing from both sides was statistically anomalous. It was perfection.
So if you are Vincent Kompany and you were staring down those statistics in your office on Wednesday morning, how do you fix this for the second leg?
That is the million-dollar question.
Your team controlled the ball, they created better statistical chances, but they conceded 5 goals on 5 shots on target. Do you make drastic personnel changes?
It's tough.
The Reddit community was ruthless toward Manuel Neuer. User Tenzel422 suggested that the legendary goalkeeper needs to be benched, arguing that the modern Champions League is just too fast for him now, and that a younger goalkeeper with quicker reflexes might have saved a couple of those hyper-accurate shots.
I mean, suggesting the benching of a generational titan like Manuel Neuer ahead of a Champions League semifinal second leg at the Allianz Arena, that is a monumental risk.
Oh, huge.
It's the kind of decision that defines a managerial career. But Kompany has a genuine tactical puzzle to solve here. He has to look at how repeatedly exposed his center backs, Upamecano and Jonathan Tah, were in those foot races.
Yeah.
Does he instruct his defensive line to drop 10 yards deeper to prevent those devastating balls over the top?
But if he does that,
Exactly. If he does that, he sacrifices the very high press that allowed Bayern to generate their 2.51 xG in the first place. It is a terrifying tactical catch-22.
I have to jump in and defend the defenders here, pushing back against Rooney and Seedorf.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm listening to these retired legends sitting in comfortable studio chairs, looking at slow-motion replays and calling the defending bad or lacking organization. Doesn't that feel incredibly reductive?
I mean, it can be.
Consider the opposition. Bayern's front line of Kane, Elise, and Diaz have combined for over 100 goals this season. Dembélé and Kvaratskhelia are playing the best football of their careers.
True.
Trying to maintain a rigid defensive organization against forwards who can run at 35 kilometers an hour and place a shot in the top corner from 20 yards out is like trying to catch a speeding train by standing on the tracks instead of running alongside it. Eventually, the sheer physics of the attack overwhelm you.
It is a highly valid counter-argument. Punditry often suffers from outcome bias.
Right.
The assumption that every goal conceded must be the direct result of a glaring defensive error rather than the result of unstoppable offensive brilliance.
Exactly.
When Kvaratskhelia cuts inside at full speed, drops a shoulder to unbalance the defender by a fraction of an inch, and whips a shot perfectly into the bottom corner.
What can you do?
There is no whiteboard diagram or defensive organization that prevents that specific sequence from ending in a goal. Sometimes the attacker simply wins.
And I think that acknowledgement that these specific attackers are operating on a plane of existence where normal tactics fail is exactly why this matchup between Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich has transcended normal football analysis.
Well, no, absolutely.
It isn't just a good game.
Yeah.
It has become the defining rivalry of modern European football. Let's look at the history, because the familiarity between these two clubs is staggering.
They have essentially become the final bosses of each other's European campaigns. Over the last 6 years, they have clashed in every conceivable round of this tournament. They met in the 2020 Champions League final, which Bayern won in a tight, tense affair.
Right.
They've met in the quarterfinals, they've battled in the round of 16, and they've been drawn together in the group stages.
Since the 2017-2018 tournament, they have played each other 9 times.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, the only fixture played more frequently in that time frame is Real Madrid versus Manchester City. They know every single tendency, every weakness, every tactical wrinkle the other possesses.
It breeds a unique kind of tactical intimacy. There are no secrets left between the coaching staffs.
And crucially, before this 5-4 explosion, Bayern Munich held a massive psychological advantage.
They did.
The German side had won their last 5 consecutive encounters against PSG. That included a 2-1 victory and a 1-0 victory earlier in this very tournament cycle. For PSG, Bayern Munich wasn't just an opponent. They were a Mount Everest-sized mental hurdle. PSG had historically lost 60% of their Champions League games against Bayern. You carry that historical weight onto the pitch with you.
You do. Overcoming that sort of psychological block requires immense mental fortitude.
Yeah.
When Bayern went up 1-0 through the Kane penalty, the ghosts of those past defeats could easily have paralyzed the Parisian players. Easily. The fact that they responded by scoring 5 goals is a testament to a massive cultural shift within the PSG dressing room.
And it also completely obliterates a narrative that has dominated online football discourse for years.
Yeah.
We all know the tired Farmers League accusation.
Oh, say yes.
For anyone who somehow hasn't encountered this on Twitter or Reddit, it's a derogatory term frequently weaponized by fans of the English Premier League and Spanish La Liga. The argument suggests that because PSG and Bayern usually dominate the French Ligue 1 and the German Bundesliga respectively, with Bayern already crowned champions this year and PSG on the verge, they play soft, uncompetitive football against inferior opposition or farmers.
It is a pervasive and incredibly stubborn myth.
It really is.
But what this 5-4 match proves, definitively and mathematically, is that when these two domestic juggernauts meet, they produce a level of tactical warfare and physical intensity that is unrivaled anywhere else on the planet.
Yeah.
If they were playing lazy, casual football in their domestic leagues, they would not be physically capable of executing the tactics we saw in this match.
The intensity metrics provided by the BBC absolutely dismantle the Farmers League argument. Look at these numbers. PSG applied high-intensity pressure to 58% of Bayern Munich's touches in the middle third of the pitch.
Let's contextualize what that actually means on the grass. High-intensity pressure isn't just jogging toward the player with the ball.
Wow.
It means sprinting, lunging, and actively trying to force a turnover at maximum physical exertion.
Right.
To sustain that for 58% of the opponent's midfield touches across 90 minutes requires elite aerobic capacity.
Your lungs would be on fire.
Completely.
And the individual stats back it up. Warren Zaire-Emery, PSG's young midfield engine, registered 265 high-intensity pressures in the middle third alone over the course of this tournament.
Amazing.
Vitinha completed 1,370 passes in this Champions League campaign, shattering a record that had stood since 2003. You do not achieve those numbers, you do not maintain that level of relentless pressing if you are accustomed to playing uncompetitive walking pace football.
Exactly. The tactical complexity required to bypass a press of that intensity is staggering. And speaking of elite mentality, we have to highlight Bayern Munich's resilience in the face of that pressure.
Oh, definitely.
Finding yourself down 5-2 away from home in Paris with the Parc des Princes crowd in an absolute frenzy is usually a death sentence in a two-legged European tie.
Yeah, game over.
Most teams would fold up the tent, try to avoid conceding a sixth, then accept their fate.
But Bayern just kept swinging. They pull it back to 5-4, and the post-match comments show a team that remains entirely unbothered by the deficit. Josip Stanisic, the Bayern defender, admitted it wasn't their finest defensive hour, but pointedly stated they go home knowing anything is possible.
Right.
Harry Kane talked about how they thought and clawed their way back into the tie and now have nothing to lose, with 75,000 Bavarian fans behind them for the second leg.
That psychological armor is incredible. Conceding 5 goals away from home would shatter the confidence of almost any squad.
Yeah, for sure.
But Bayern's belief in their own offensive machinery is so deeply entrenched that they simply refuse to accept the narrative that they are beaten. They know they can score against anyone, anywhere.
The sheer violence of the football on display was recognized by everyone watching. User Sidvich on Reddit left a comment calling it an Al-Qaeda versus Taliban semifinal. It's obviously a very extreme, hyperbolic internet joke, but it perfectly captures the ruthless, explosive, mutually assured destruction that both teams engaged in. Neither side was interested in peacekeeping.
Even the traditional veteran pundits felt that visceral thrill.
They did.
Alan Shearer, a man who has seen decades of elite football, described it as one of the greatest games I've ever been to.
High praise.
He highlighted the purity of two teams stepping onto the pitch with the singular, unwavering belief that they could simply outscore the opposition, regardless of how many goals they conceded in the process.
So put yourself in the shoes of a neutral fan. You sit on your couch on a Tuesday night and watch this 9-goal, heavy metal end-to-end spectacle. The adrenaline is pumping.
Yeah.
How do you wake up on Saturday morning and go back to watching a standard domestic league match? You know the type. A gritty 1-0 game where a mid-table team deploys a low block, parks 10 men behind the ball, and kills the clock for 80 minutes.
It's tough.
Has this PSG-Bayern game fundamentally ruined our expectations for what normal football should look like?
It undoubtedly creates a massive dopamine spike for the viewer. It establishes a benchmark for entertainment that 99% of professional football matches simply cannot reach.
Right.
When you witness the sheer spectacle of what happens when elite teams take the tactical handbrake off, you inevitably start to resent the handbrake when other teams use it.
Yeah.
You start questioning why every top team doesn't play with such reckless abandon.
And that specific sentiment that this game was almost too wild, too uncontrollable, is exactly what has the global football community so fiercely divided over what to expect in the rest of the tournament. Let's pivot to the other side of the bracket because the contrast is jarring. In the other semifinal, we have Arsenal facing Atletico Madrid.
You could not engineer a more stark clash of footballing philosophies if you tried.
It is a complete 180-degree turn. You read the Reddit threads reacting to the 5-4 thriller, and fans are intensely debating whether Arsenal or Atletico even stand a chance of surviving whoever emerges from the bloodbath in Paris and Munich. The community is treating the PSG-Bayern matchup as the de facto final. User Jocklo22 joked, Atletico and Arsenal should be playing for third place.
It is a fascinating study in tactical contrasts.
Yeah.
PSG and Bayern represent what the internet generation refers to as absolute cinema, high-risk attacking football that prioritizes scoring over preventing goals.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid and Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. These are teams built on a foundation of rigid structure, spatial control, and immense defensive solidity.
The fans were circulating a fantastic quote from Diego Simeone recently that perfectly encapsulates this divide.
Oh, I saw this.
Speaking about high-scoring games, Simeone reportedly said, "When a match ends 5-4, everyone says, 'What a great game.' I say, they scored 5 goals against us."
Yes.
For a manager like Simeone, conceding 4 goals is a catastrophic failure of the system, regardless of whether you win the match.
Simeone's entire philosophy, Callismo, is predicated on suffering without breaking. He builds a 5-0 low block that thrives on denying space in the center of the pitch. Arteta's Arsenal operates differently, utilizing a highly synchronized press to compress space. But the end goal is the same: absolute control of the game state. And this raises a crucial counter-argument to the hype surrounding the 5-4 match. Clarence Seedorf made a brilliant point during the broadcast.
What was that?
While the fans and neutral observers are swooning over the 9 goals, Seedorf pointed out that professional goalkeepers and defensive coaches watch a match like that with pure horror.
It's the classic adage, right? Defense wins championships.
Exactly. Seedorf suggested that Arsenal's proven ability to grind out clean sheets and suffocate opposing attackers might actually make them the quiet favorites to lift the trophy.
Interesting.
Why? Because fundamentally, a team like Arsenal or Atletico Madrid will simply not give their opponents the cheap transitional goals that PSG and Bayern freely traded with each other. They will not leave 50 yards of space behind their center backs.
It's hilarious tracking how the online community interacts with these differing styles. Arsenal wasn't even playing on the night of the 5-4 match, yet they were dominated the discourse in the post-match threads.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
One Reddit user found it highly amusing, commenting that Arsenal literally lives rent-free in your head. They are catching stray bullets in a conversation that is ostensibly about French and German clubs.
Right.
It shows how deeply fans identify with their team's tactical identity.
European football is deeply interconnected. Every fan base watches a chaotic result like 5-4 and immediately projects their own team's tactical setup onto it.
True.
Arsenal fans watch Bayern's high line fail and think William Saliba and Gabriel wouldn't let Kane turn in that space.
So how does this chaotic result actually shape our predictions for the final in Budapest? If we get PSG or Bayern against Arsenal or Atletico, are we looking at an irresistible force meeting an immovable object?
Pretty much.
Are we going to see a massive 4-0 blowout where the attacking firepower overwhelms the defensive block? Or is it going to be the exact opposite? One highly pessimistic, or perhaps highly realistic fan predicted that Arsenal will simply drag the high-flying winner into a miserable, boring 0-0 draw and steal the trophy on penalty kicks.
Both of those scenarios are entirely tactically sound. The dynamic of the final will hinge entirely on the first goal.
Okay.
If a team like Bayern or PSG scores in the first 15 minutes against Arsenal or Atletico, it forces the defensive team to abandon their low block, push forward, and open up the very spaces they desperately want to protect.
Which would be disastrous for them.
Yes. That game state can easily snowball into a 4-0 blowout. However, if Arsenal or Atletico score first or hold it at 0-0 deep into the second half, they will condense the pitch, foul tactically to break up rhythm, and refuse to allow the chaotic end-to-end transitions that define the 5-4 match.
I look at it through the lens of a boxing match.
Okay, let's hear the analogy.
Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich are like two massive heavyweight sluggers standing dead in the center of the ring, throwing huge looping haymakers with their hands down by their waists.
Yeah.
It is breathtakingly entertaining to watch. But Arsenal and Atletico are like technical counterpunchers.
Right.
They keep their gloves glued to their chin, they jab, they frustrate you, they wait for you to overextend on a wild swing, and then they slip inside and punish you.
Exactly.
Historically speaking, in long tournament formats, doesn't the disciplined technical defense usually wear down the brawler and win the championship belt?
Historically, yes. The teams capable of dictating the tempo and controlling the game state, often through superior defensive organization, are usually the ones holding the trophy at the end of the season.
Right.
However, to follow your boxing analogy, a technical counterpuncher still has to survive being locked in the ring with a heavyweight throwing haymakers. A perfect defensive structure can still be undone by one moment of 35-kilometer-per-hour magic from Kvaratskhelia. And before we even begin analyzing the final, we have to remember the terrifying reality for PSG and Bayern. They have to survive another 90 minutes of each other.
That is the truly wild part of this entire discussion.
Yeah.
The tie is only at halftime. They have to go back out there and do this all over again.
And keep Vincent Kompany's post-match warning in mind.
Oh, yeah.
He said, we're at home with 75,000 people in the stadium. I want more. We want that weight to be there. And then the Allianz Arena is a place where anything can happen.
No.
He is actively promising that the second leg will not be a quiet, conservative 1-0 affair. He is inviting the chaos back into the building.
I genuinely don't know if the collective blood pressure of the football world can handle another 5-4. So, let's pull all these threads together and summarize what we've unpacked today.
Sounds good.
We've examined the reality-breaking nature of this historic 5-4 scoreline, the highest-scoring semifinal in the history of the Champions League. We explored the geometric failures of the high defensive lines. We broke down the phenomenal game-altering performances from stars like Khvicha Kvaratskhelia dropping centrally, Ousmane Dembele's relentless pressing, and Michael Olise's isolation brilliance.
Oh, incredible.
We weighed the heated debate between pundits blaming defensive disorganization versus recognizing unstoppable attacking talent.
And we looked at the existential dread this match has induced in the fans of the highly structured, defensively rigid teams remaining in the tournament.
It was a 90-minute window that aggressively challenged everything we assume about how high-level football matches are meant to be contested.
So I pass the question to you. You, the listener. Put yourself in the technical area on the touchline.
Yeah, think about it.
If you were a manager tasked with navigating a European semifinal, would you rather win an ugly, grueling game 1-0, confident in the safety of your defensive structure, and guarantee your ticket to the final?
Or would you rather win 5-4, throwing every ounce of caution to the wind, abandoning the blueprint, and giving the world a spectacle they will never forget, even if the stress of it ages you 10 years in a single night?
It represents the ultimate philosophical divide in the sport, and I think it leaves us with a fascinating final thought to consider.
What's that?
For the last 2 decades, the overarching evolution of football tactics has trended relentlessly toward intense, suffocating control.
Right.
Think of Pep Guardiola's possession-heavy dominance or Jurgen Klopp's highly choreographed pressing triggers. It has been an era defined by minimizing risk and eliminating variables. The architectural blueprint we discussed at the start.
Yes.
But what if this 5-4 match is a glimpse of a new horizon? What if the next great tactical evolution isn't about finding a better way to perfectly control the game, but about leaning into the absolute madness?
Oh, wow.
What if the future of the sport belongs to the managers brave enough to take the handbrake off, embrace the chaos, and simply trust that their elite athletes can surf the unpredictable wave better than the opposition?
If the Grandmaster chessboard is shattered, well, maybe the only way forward is to learn to love the fever dream.